Welcome into our post-game coverage of the South Carolina-Oklahoma game here this afternoon at Williams-Brice Stadium in Columbia. The Sooners come in and get the victory 26-7. Our report is brought to you by the South Carolina Beef Council. Well, across the street from us here at Williams-Brice, a lot of fun and games taking place at the South Carolina State Fair. Inside Williams-Brice Stadium today, no fun. The Gamecocks and their fans as they fall to Oklahoma 26-7. The Sooners get their revenge for the loss last year to the Gamecocks in Norman, Oklahoma. This was a game when South Carolina looks back at it that really, as frustrating as everything was, Gamecocks really had a chance in the first half to make this a better game in the second half. They just couldn't make it happen in the first half when they had the chance to do so. They fell behind 14 to nothing. They gave up an opening long touchdown drive. They came back with a long drive, but they couldn't knock it in the end zone. They turned it over on downs inside the 5 yard line. They had a chance later on after Oklahoma went up 14 to nothing to get on the board. And again, the Gamecocks drove it deep into Oklahoma territory, got it down to the goal line. This time on fourth down, they did knock it in late in the first half, a touchdown pass from Lenore Sellers to Nick Harbor. It was a 14-7 game at that point going into the second half, and South Carolina was really in this thing, and they were getting the ball to start the second half. But the Gamecocks couldn't do anything with the Oklahoma defense in the second half. In fact, it got to the point where they faked the punt in their own end of the field. It was intercepted by Oklahoma, and that set up the Sooners for their third touchdown. They later added a safety, and they win it here in Columbia 26-7. Frustration throughout the Gamecock program because of the injuries, really beat up on the offensive line. It's a mix and match of players coming in, going out. Guys weren't available. Some had to play hurt. Then they lose Dylan Stewart early in the game on the opening offensive possession for Oklahoma. He goes out with a hip flexor, tried to come back to play, re-aggravated that, and he was done for the day. So that was a significant loss to the Gamecock defense. South Carolina had trouble converting on third down on offense. They were 0 for 10 until they finally converted one, and they had trouble getting Oklahoma off the field on third down. Oklahoma was 8 of 16 on third down, but much more efficient than that in the first half when they had their two touchdown drives. And a couple of key third down plays on both of those drives kept those drives alive and led to those touchdowns. So Gamecocks were not able to take advantage of their field position in the first half, and getting Oklahoma off the field was a big issue as well. Gamecock defense hung in there. They hung in there all day long. In the second half, Oklahoma only scored one touchdown, and that came after the interception on the fake punt. Otherwise, it was a field goal and a safety. So you have to give the Gamecocks defense credit for not giving up and giving the Gamecocks a chance had the offense been able to really do anything in the second half, but they weren't able to do very much at all. South Carolina finished with 224 yards to 319 for Oklahoma. Ordinarily, to hold a team to 319, you're going to have a pretty good chance to win. But Oklahoma did run for 171 yards. The Gamecocks had only 54 yards on the ground. Sacks. Oklahoma had 6 sacks. Tackles for loss. Oklahoma had 13 tackles for loss. I would estimate that Lenore Sellers, who was running for his life most of the day when he dropped back to pass, I would estimate he was hit at least 20 times on his dropbacks and then his scrambles. And another thing, Lenore Sellers was not effective or called upon to run the ball hardly at all in predetermined runs. That aspect of the offense was not in play at all today from South Carolina. So that was taken away from the offense for whatever reason. The coach decided not to try to implement that in the game plan today. Could have been the fact that Oklahoma's defense is so good and their defensive ends are extremely good, and maybe they didn't want to put Sellers out there to take those kind of hits. Then again, he was running for his life most of the day when he went back to pass. He finished 17 of 25 for only 124 yards, same amount of passing yards he had last week against LSU, and he had one touchdown. He was only two for his last seven. His favorite target was his brother, Jaden Sellers, who was 6 of 57, 6 for 57 yards. He played a lot because Brian Rowe and two others were suspended. Two other defensive players were suspended for the game for violation of team standards, but they will all be back next week, according to Shane Beamer. John Batir of Oklahoma was 18 of 26 for 150 yards and a touchdown. So, again, the defense kind of kept him somewhat under wraps. Then again, Oklahoma did hit some runs. They were able to break some runs up the middle, and it was the freshman, Torrey Blaylock, led the way with 101 yards and a touchdown. And their top receiver was Isaiah Satania, 7 catches, 73 yards, and a touchdown. So, disappointing day for South Carolina back at home for a tough run against SEC competition, which began last week at LSU. Come back home to face Oklahoma, hoping to spring the upset on the Sooners. It just was not enough of a complete game for the Gamecocks today. The offense could not take advantage of a couple of other opportunities that they might have had. They did nothing really offensively in the second half. And the defense gave up too many big plays in the running game and too many third down conversions that kept drives alive and gave Oklahoma that chance to go down and score those touchdowns. So it was not a game where it was a complementary performance by the offense, maybe helping out the defense helping out the offense, even the special teams, because they ran a fake punt, but they ran it right into the Oklahoma coverage. They were ready for that. And again, Oklahoma took that turnover, turned it into a touchdown that pretty much put the game away. Fans were not happy. Fans were booing. Fans were calling for the firing of Mike Shula. Fans were leaving early in the third quarter. So it was not a pretty afternoon as the game progressed here in Columbia. And coming up, it's only Alabama next week for a homecoming at South Carolina. So the Gamecocks have got to regroup. Somehow they've got to get healthy. Somehow they've got to regain their mojo and their confidence. If not, it could be another tough, potentially embarrassing game next week here in Columbia against Alabama. That'll do it for our coverage of this afternoon's game. Oklahoma beat South Carolina 26-7. On Sunday afternoon, we'll have coverage of the Shane Beamer conference call for you. That'll be at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And then we'll all be together Monday night. Matt Smith will join us to talk about the Clemson game. And Chris Bergen will be with us after being on the call for Coastal Carolina today as well. Thanks for checking us out here this afternoon from Williams-Brice Stadium. Sports Talk at the stadium, brought to you by the South Carolina Beef Council.